Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, NWSL analyst and broadcaster. On today's episode, the NWSL is back. The regular season has returned after an international break, and we're going to provide you with a recap of this weekend's games, all 5 games, all teams competing for this playoff push. It's going to be intense. But first, a quick reminder to everyone listening, go follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. And you can also head over to our YouTube page and hit subscribe to never miss a thing. Don't miss a new video. Don't miss any of our interviews. You can get extended NWSL highlights. Go to youtube.com/attacking third and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Lisa, I'm so excited to chat about NWSL action with you. We had some good ones this weekend.
We had great games. Lots of good goals were scored in the NWSL. I got to go watch some college soccer. I watched Marquette. They took on Villanova and they won. That was also a banger. 4 goals in that game. Marquette won 3-1. So exciting weekend all around for me. And I watched so much women's soccer. And honestly, I loved it, Sandra. That's really what I look forward to on the weekends. And when it plays out like this last weekend did, with great games, bangers, lots of wins, it's fun. How was your weekend?
I agree. I was just like so excited that we were gonna get this NWSL action back. I think you and I both know that this is the final stretch, right, of the season that we've been waiting for, where we just sort of know and sort of felt that really everything was just sort of going to come together and fall into place, where certain teams were finally going to iron out those things that they have been trying to iron out all weekend or all year, really coming off of a 2020 that didn't have a regular season. And we're seeing it play out right now. We saw it play out over this weekend, and that table is still as narrow as ever, honestly, and it's probably going to stay that way all the way through the remainder of this final stretch of games. Let's get into it, Lisa. Let's start with some of these games. We got the 2 games, a doubleheader that kick things off on Saturday. Let's start with New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC versus North Carolina Courage. Just for giggles, we don't remember our picks as usual. I do remember that I went with Gotham. I'm excited about that. I Lisa's like, I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember, guys.
It doesn't matter what the picks were because this game was an absolute treat. Margaret Purse back. Paige Monahan back. Woo! So many good things for Gotham that are happening right now in a very important part of the season. They defeat North Carolina Courage 3-1. First big win for new head coach Scott Parkinson. So congrats to him as well. Big, the energy in this game coming out of it and the scenes, but you just saw, even as the goals were happening, just they were feeling it. Gotham looks like they're ready to make a run in these final weeks, and they're one of the teams, Lisa, that have that extra game in hand, where some other teams their season is going to come to a close much sooner. What were some of your takeaways from this big win for Gotham?
As you mentioned, Gotham is in this playoff push, and they are, although right now they don't sit above that playoff line at number 6 position, they are still in this. This win was huge for them and huge for Scott Parkinson, the new head coach. It was Gotham's first win since July 25th. That is 2 full months without winning a game. You said it though. It's Margaret Purse being back. It's Anamano in the top combining with Purse. It's Paige Monahan being back, who Monahan, a player we haven't seen on the pitch since June for this Gotham team. And now Carly Lloyd is back because over that little stretch of the international break and during the Olympics, she was a big missing factor for this Gotham team, especially picking up balls in the midfield and playing those through balls. Man, Margaret Purse, she rested up well. She not only got her body back into good physical shape, but she elevated herself and she elevated her game. And it was tough these last few weeks for Gotham with just Anamano up top. She's quick and she has a lot of skill, and we've seen her score some bangers throughout this season, but to have Midge Purse in there takes a lot of the pressure off Anamano because now they can play together. They can both run at back lines. They can get in behind. They have a destination for so many of Carly Lloyd's through balls through opponents' back lines. This game was so fun to watch between those two. And we also have to give a shout out to Haz James, Angard James, her first goal for North Carolina in the NWSL, which was huge. And I think that says a lot as well, that North Carolina scored first.
Yeah. They opened up the goal scoring in this one.
They
And you
did.
almost kind of thought like, okay, maybe it's going to be a little bit of the late season push, that experience that comes in from a team like the Courage, where they've been there before. They sort of know it's time to lock it in. It's really time to sort of establish ourselves and get a lock on things. And then them going up first, you're just sort of, it's like, okay, well, let's see what happens here. But Purse, really such a difference maker for the team in this one, winning a penalty kick to start things off here. Very, very active in the final third. Gets the foul in the box against Courage defender Diane Caldwell. It's the call. Lloyd steps up to take, convert. Everything's equalized, and it came at a very crucial time. You know, they didn't go long. They weren't down a long time in this game, and it's tough when you're chasing games in this league. It is very tough to try to come back sometimes, but not forgot them on this one. And a big part of it was because of Purse and her play in the final third for this team.
It was a huge part of it. And I also think the smarts of the Gotham attackers to understand that there was three of them, Anamanu, Purse, and Lloyd, going against a 3-back for North Carolina. Yeah. And head coach for the Courage, Paul Riley, has said previously that his team has been plagued with defensive injuries, and he just doesn't have a lot of depth defensively. So when he doesn't have 4 defenders, he goes with 3, and he stacks his midfield a little bit differently. And Gotham just bullied. The 3v3 were just out playing and outworking the Courage's back line. And Midge Purse, she had a goal of her own. Incredible goal from her, assisted by Anamanu before halftime. It was huge, and you could see from the celebration, it was a beautiful goal of Anamanu dribbling down the sideline. She gets end line, crosses it into a late running Margaret Purse, who just clinically finishes the ball and finds the back of the net. Really, it was picture perfect, textbook. But the celebration afterward of Didasco and Anamanu just jumping on top of Purse, that return is so huge, and that does so much for Purse's confidence.
Yeah, you could tell that the team absolutely missed her presence on the pitch. You know, she has a great presence for the team off the pitch, but on the pitch, there was a certain type of X factor that was missing for this Gotham team as they sort of tried to navigate these last 2 months in search of a win that never came, and that it's shouldn't be too surprising for people to connect the dots that once you sort of have these players that you have been missing, specifically in Purse, that they finally were able to sort of turn the key as opposed to just sort of having it in the ignition, and Midge Purse was there to rev it up. So it was fantastic win for this team. Big one again for Scott Parkinson. It's something to note, you know, for me when I was watching this game, I thought it was very telling that it was Parkinson's first win, first game on the sideline with Gotham. That very impressive Chicago Red Stars game that they had against Courage, where everybody was like, wow, they just really sort of bossed the midfield and took things over. All of the preparation and game planning for that was fell on Scott Parkinson, as Rory Dames was out of town for that match week. And so a lot of the prep for that and against that Courage team was via Scott Parkinson. So to sort of see this sort of kind of play out for his first win, I thought was very, very symbolic and very, very impressive to sort of kind of kick off this new era for Gotham. But speaking of Chicago, let's get into it to end out this doubleheader on Saturday with Chicago Red Stars versus Portland Thorns FC. I'm going to put myself on blast. I know for a fact that I had this as a draw. I thought both of these teams were going to be coming off of this international window and coming to head-to-head at SeatGeek Stadium in Illinois, and maybe just was going to play out a draw. And I think for you, I think it was for Thorns, right? Because they're such a great team right now. But we were both wrong in this one. Chicago Red Stars doing
it looks
something.
Like a draw. It looked like a draw. Game winner didn't come until over the hour mark. So you could have had your draw there, Sandra.
I would have been a winner either way, quite frankly, in this one. But the Red Stars had different ideas. We're talking about these sort of groundbreaking moments, these breakthrough moments for certain teams at a very crucial point in the season. And similarly to Gotham, this sort of feels like one for the Chicago Red Stars. It was a big win for a team that has not had a good record against Portland Thorns. This is Chicago Red Stars' first regular season win against the Portland Thorns since the inaugural 2013 season of the NWSL. The only other victory came in a semifinal playoff. So this is only the second regular season victory for the Red Stars against the Thorns. So a lot of big things, big sort of kind of breakthroughs for the Chicago Red Stars team. And a lot of some of what was coming out of the post game for this team was sort of the preparation for this specific moment. These were two teams that were only going to face each other 2 times in the regular season, where a lot of other teams just sort of kind of get like a 3-game series, but not for Chicago and Portland in 2021. So that 5-goal loss that they had to start their season was something that was a motivating factor for the players kind of going into this one. They definitely wanted the chance to sort of show who they could be against this Portland Thorns side. And there's a lot of questions maybe about who this Portland Thorns team is coming out of this international window right now in terms of the starting lineup that was presented against Chicago, and having so many players maybe sort of rotating their minutes. Rocky Rodriguez having to come off the bench, who sort of saw the impact for the Thorns in this game once she came in, not having somebody like Lindsay Herrera, who's currently navigating through an injury of her own. But that Portland Thorns team is still stacked. That is a stacked team. They're the number 1 team for the reason they've shown all year why they are the deepest team in the league. So in terms of bringing up those type of narratives, I think it's a little bit unfair, to sort of present that when in a loss against a Red Stars team, which were able to sort of get this win by sort of kind of taking back over the game in the second half after kind of conceding a little bit to the Portland Thorns, and just sort of watching Mal Pugh get involved as she typically does, take over a little bit, get very active in the final third, and sort of see the Chicago team attack in waves of pressure, and then finally get a breakthrough goal. We've seen the Chicago team present waves of attack, but not seen a lot of action in terms of the ball getting in the back of the net. But that wasn't the case on this night. They were actually able to get that breakthrough goal, that breakthrough go-ahead goal, and then pick up the win. So it's a big one for this team.
This is a huge win for Chicago. And you talked about how much pressure went into this match in the Portland and Chicago matchup. And if Portland beat Chicago, they would have clinched a playoff position. They did not, which is crazy to think about, that's how big of a league and lead and point differential that the Thorns have right now. They still sit at the top of the standings despite this loss. But this Chicago team, I said it in our preview. I gave Portland the win, but I said I will not be surprised if Chicago goes off. And that is exactly what they did with Rory Dames at the helm. He can do so many great things that are happening behind the scenes on his teams, and when the time is right, he unleashes it all. The front 3 of Watt, Pugh, and Rachel Hill, phenomenal. That trio is just phenomenal. They are all over the pitch. Kalia Watt is so much faster, and she surprises me every single time she gets on the ball. I don't think she's going to be fast. I don't. And then she gets behind the ball and she just outruns defenders that are very fast. So she was very fun to watch throughout this match. But really, Pugh, Hill, and Watt, their crosses into the box, their runs off the ball, they're constantly moving for each other. And one thing about Chicago and stat line, they ended this game with 20 crosses. Portland ended it with 21. However, Chicago had 10 in the first half and 10 in the second half. Their consistent attack is tremendous. Whereas Portland, they trailed off a little bit. They lost some of their mojo. And I think Chicago was the more complete team over the 90 minutes. And their response, Christine Sinclair had a worldie of a goal early on. She opened up the scoring in the 23rd minute. It was actually Crystal Dunn who was racing down the sideline, going as fast as heck. And she actually slows up her run after going so fast, and a little trail back pass to Christine Sinclair. Beautiful. I mean, the strike was just placed really well, the instep for Sinclair, and that goal was beautiful. But a minute later, the Red Stars respond off of a mistake. I'm going to say this is a Bella Bigsby mistake. She doesn't grab the ball, she punches it out, and then Chicago capitalizes on it. But I think the second goal, the head goal, like you were talking about, Sandra, this goal was so beautiful. The cross from Pugh.
I couldn't get over that service.
Mallory Pugh is just so good. And when she turns it on, it's so fun to watch her. This cross is just driven really hard towards the back post. Rachel Hill uses her head, just like directs the ball towards the back of the net. But Mallory Pugh, she gets the ball and she assesses all of her options. You can see her brain working so quickly and then her feet moving just as fast to execute her game plan. And I think the international break for Mal Pugh gave her triple the confidence that she needed for this NWSL season.
Yeah, that service was up on a platter. It's like, even if you're rewatching that goal as it happens, just watching the precision on this pass from Mal Pugh was just chef's kiss. Like, absolutely, really good stuff. And honestly, like, if people do want to do like a stat check, I am kind of curious about this, since we were talking about bangers in this game, because Christine Sinclair did have one, unshockingly. She tends to do that against the Chicago Red Stars. So if someone can find how many times Christine Sinclair has scored on the Chicago Red Stars, I'd love to see it, and I'd love to hear it. So it sort of felt like this game was going to go a certain kind of way when Dunn and Sinclair linked up for that opening goal in this one. But to sort of see the Red Stars get that immediate equalizer, and honestly capitalizing on that mistake with Aaron Wright laying the ball off to Khalil Watt to slot it away, that sort of kept things level and sort of kept things interesting in this one. And that was a huge moment from Aaron Wright. She quite frankly could have taken a touch and tried to go for goal herself, but to just sort of have the presence of mind to lay off to her striker and let Khalil Watt do that was big. The outside backs in this game had a big impact in this one. It was some real bullying on the flanks going on from Aaron Wright and Casey Short. There were tough moments. It was a learning moment, I think, for somebody like an Olivia Moultrie going up against somebody like a Casey Kruger. Tough to work on those outside backs. But big win for Chicago.
And Kruger had a great game. She had a great game, not just defensively, but sending crosses in, and really, it's fun to watch really good soccer.
Yeah, it's happening. It's all happening for us, folks, and we're getting through it. Don't mind us and our excitement in talking about it. There's 3 more to get through. Triple header for Sunday. Let's get through them. Racing Louisville FC versus Houston Dash. Oof, tough scoreline in this one. Houston Dash picking up a huge win and a big scoreline, 4-0. They go into Louisville and defeat Racing on 4 goals, 4-0 scoreline. Lisa, I'm just going to pitch it to you real quick. Let's talk about some things defensively, because I love to hear you talk about defensive thing as a former defender. What's going on with this scoreline? We saw some of these goals for the Houston Dash come off of some real questionable decision making defensively for Louisville, and then all of a sudden this scoreline just ballooned up by the end of the game. What were some of your takes?
So going back, we have to take a look at the injury report. And Racing Louisville was missing both of their center backs in Kaylee Reel and Gemma Bonner. That hurts the team when you're missing one center back, let alone 2. And not only that, at the attacking end of the field, Racing Louisville without Nadia Nadim, who is a goal scorer, tremendous, and she's so creative and such a playmaker, but she also defends a lot off the ball. Those holes initially for Racing Louisville didn't help them. Subs coming in off the bench and getting starts tonight, it's not a knock against them, but your center backs are your leaders, and they're really the glue that holds the defensive organizational shape team together. And if you lose both of them before a match, that's saying a lot. Now, Houston also was without Rachel Daly, who is a prolific goal scorer, but that didn't really matter when the midfield for Houston Dash has Christy Mewis and Shea Groom and Sophie Schmidt. Are you kidding me? They played so well. And Breva Sally, she got her first goal or her first start for Houston tonight. in this matchup, which is her first goal, excuse me, and she got the start for Houston tonight, which says a lot about the depth of the forwards. And sometimes with players, they know they're good, and if they get in off the bench and they sub on for a player, they play okay, and they know that that's their moment to shine. But when they get the opportunity to start and make a difference, it can change the game for a player because they know that they were the first choice and they're not coming in off the bench. Now, not every player has this mentality, but that's a huge thing, and I think that really helped Houston throughout this match. Racing Louisville, there's definitely some holes there. Definitely holes defensively. In the attack, though, Shayna Matthews, she is coming back into stride. I can see her having a really good future next year. I mean, she's finding her stride and getting her setting, and she hasn't played since 2017. She had a child, and
she's working her way back into form, for sure.
But to watch her and the progress she's made so far is really impressive. But this is Houston's first league win in a month. This is big. This is what they needed heading into this playoff push.
You know, at the time when they entered this match week, you know, they were on the outside looking in, and the win very briefly gave them a bump in the standings before the other two matches took place. But it's still a significant win for them. Having this win and having it be a 4-goal win is huge, because we've been talking about it a lot this year. It's something about 2021. It's something about the return of a full regular season in NWSL this year, where it feels like anything can happen. And that will possibly include some tiebreaker scenarios come that final week to maybe determine some things. And Houston was level on some tiebreakers with some other teams, most specifically Chicago, in like 3 different areas. It was like head-to-head, it was goal differential, and I think like something with some type of game conduct rule as well. So there was just a lot of different tiebreakers within there. But this type of match for them helps change up and shake up their goal differential. So it's different. It benefits them both with 3 points and quite possibly a tiebreaker down the road should it come down to that. So to
now they have a positive goal differential.
Yes.
Now Houston, they have 24 goals for and 23 goals against. So this was huge for them, not only to score 4 goals, but also get a clean sheet out of this match to help with that differential.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And I think, like, yes, you make an incredibly important point about the IR and the injury report for Louisville and missing big center backs. That's huge for that team. But I don't know. I still think Houston takes this game. Maybe it's not 4-0, but it's maybe 2-0. Louisville has struggled defensively a lot this year. They have been on the bad end of some errors that have led to goals. There's a lot of film out there. There's a lot of highlight reels for people to take a look at. So it's tough, because coming into this match, it sort of felt like we kind of had this one circled, just like this was going to be maybe season defining game for these two teams. And it sort of feels as like, even though these are two teams as the week closes out that are still sort of on the outside looking in, one of them definitely has a better shot at sneaking their way in than the other.
And Houston, they're a team that has a lot of attack. Their defense has had some holes throughout this season, but overall been pretty solid. Whereas Racing Louisville, their defense hasn't been that consistent, and neither has their attack. So when you looked at stats for this game, Racing Louisville had 3 shots total. Houston had 17. Jane Campbell made 0 saves in net for the Dash. So the pressure wasn't even there for Houston, that, like, looking at on paper, but these two teams right on the bubble, you watch this game and you think, how can Houston not make the playoffs? But again, they're still towards the second half of the table.
We'll see what happens with the Dash moving on. Talking about more teams that are still trying to hang on. We had Washington Spirit finally making their return to play, hosting Kansas City NWSL. Spirit get the win in this one. They defeat Kansas City NWSL 2-1. The Washington Spirit, a month away from the pitch, they had to suffer 2 forfeitures They were handed these forfeitures due to breach of medical protocol as issued by the league in the ongoing pandemic. And somehow entering this match week, they were still in the 6th position in the standings despite the 2 forfeitures. So coming into a game like this and having those scenarios in there where everyone else around you, including yourselves, are also in the middle of a playoff push. Again, these games are just feeling much, much heavier and much more significant down the line as teams go head to head. And this was no different. Kansas City, much different position. This is a team that has been in last place in the 10th position all year round. Hopped on some media availability this week leading up to the match. Spoke a little bit with head coach Hugh Williams, spoke a little bit with Haley Mace. And honestly, the perspective is one that's keeping it very real in Kansas City. They're very realistic. They're like, listen, we're in a certain point. We have certain perspectives in place for the remainder of 2021. At this point, it really is about closing out the season very strong and trying to present some very specific assignments for players and to see if they follow through with them. Hugh Williams mentioning that they're looking to try to get, 2 attacking, goals or types of really good chances, at least a game moving out of these things. Haley Mays talking a little bit about her own versatility. She's a player that's been playing top, middle, and defensive line for this team. And in this match, saw her slotted in at center back. So there was a lot of things in between the lines in this match to pay attention to and take a look at. Yes, obviously, Washington Spirit sort of dominating the headlines, but also in Kansas City, some things that they were trying to work towards as well. And it sort of looked for a second there that this was going to be a very, very interesting game because Kansas City got on the board first in this one, Lisa, with a banger from Darian Jenkins to open up the goal scoring.
It was a banger. I loved this goal, Sandra. I loved this goal. And
so good.
It was honestly defended pretty well by the Spirit. It wasn't like a huge defensive breakdown. And I think that's what makes the goal that much better. But a great shot. She cuts in. She's on the right side of the top of the 18, cuts in with her left foot and curls the ball towards the near post. Bledsoe couldn't save it. It was phenomenal. Honestly, the Spirit players looked shocked. They were like, what? Did Jenkins just rip that on us? And yeah, she did. Darian Jenkins did. And it was beautiful. That was her second goal of the season. And I think that game or that goal opening the match for Kansas City was really good for them and good for their confidence because yes, they end up losing this one 2-1 against the Spirit. But this goal shows that those little goals that Kansas City is trying to hit every game is huge. And you mentioned it. They're very realistic about this season and about what they can achieve and where their ceiling is. And to be able to have that tough conversation in the locker room as a coach and player to say, listen, like we're out of the playoffs, but what can we learn from this year? What can we gain? What can we do to make ourselves better in the future is really mature and shows a lot. And Hugh Williams, he's had a rough season, but I think his perspective on the game and his perspective on life, honestly, helps him in a situation like this for his team where they really aren't going anywhere fast. But what can they do now in this moment? And I think this goal really did a lot for them. Later, Washington, Kelly Herrera, they draw a penalty kick inside the box, which changed everything in this game. I think the air was let out of Kansas City at this point. They knocked it away. Andy Sullivan, incredible first NWSL goal for her, for Washington Spirit this year, which is huge, especially after we saw her kick some booty with the U.S. women's national team. Not the goal I was expecting to see from Andy Sullivan.
No, I mean, but came at a crucial time. I mean, it changes the game completely. You're talking about the difference between going into halftime with a down 1-0, but now you're going in level. It was huge. Completely sent really Lady Fratch the opposite way.
She really did. And Washington without Ashley Hatch and their forward. She had an excused absence, family stuff on Sunday for that match, so she couldn't be there. But The second half, was it 10 seconds in, Sandra? I don't even remember. I was still
Yeah.
like getting my tea.
11 seconds.
11 seconds in. There we go. I missed it. I'm not going to lie. I missed it. I was getting some tea.
It was so fast.
Tara McKeown, she just dribbles down the field, open air. She was like, no, I'm finishing this game.
Yep.
Boop, finds the back of the net, which that says a lot about Washington as well, coming out of the half in the first 11 seconds to be able to respond like that. But then at that point, Kansas City, what hope they had gained at halftime and in their locker room, I think it dwindled and it fizzled out after that.
I think, I mean, obviously it doesn't help, going down that early in the second half. It absolutely changes things up. I mean, you could try to hit the reset button a little bit in the halftime, but then when you completely fumble the ball, for lack of a better sports metaphor, right that early to start off the second half, it kind of maybe negates all of that rah-rah talk that might have been happening in the locker room at the moment. But it was
really
big to see. It was big to see the response from the Spirit, quite frankly. This is a team that we haven't seen in action in nearly a month, Lisa.
I know.
They knew it was a big win going into this. They knew it was going to have to be a big result that they were going to have to get. Chris Ward was available this week in for media in the lead up to these games, and he echoed as much. He actually singled out Kelly O'Hara specifically as like a player that has been relied upon really in the locker room and on and off the pitch for the team in terms of trying to get the team to rally together in terms of what they can control, right? Considering all of the things going on in the headlines with the Washington Spirit, and that the team was still in the middle of a playoff push. That the fact of the matter is that they were still in a playoff standing and there was still the playoffs to chase in this regular season. So to sort of see Kelly O'Hara have this big role in setting the tone back for, regaining the control back for the Spirit was, I think, kind of symbolic a little bit. Going up against the rookie defender there and Kiki Pickett. And then, there was some grabbing and sort of having the presence to mind and the veteranship to say, that's enough, I'm going to drop. And there's a lot of argument about like, oh, it's soft, it's this, and those type of penalties never get called in NWSL. But you know what? She's tried it and it got called. Yeah, I can't tell you how, Lisa, I cannot tell you how many times, and I don't know what it is. It's something about the prototypical NWSL player. There have been so many times where there have been moments like that in a box, and I see NWSL players attacking players just sort of like gut it out and they want to play through it. And I get that. Yes. That's part of the mentality. But there are also moments in which I see that and I go, man, I wonder what would have happened. And maybe, I don't know, maybe would have just fell. just see what happens. Just see what happens. Especially in which it happened. You're talking about you're reaching the latter end of a first half, and if you don't get it, guess what? You're going into the locker room down a goal, but it happens, and they called for the PK, and then Andy Sullivan converted. So complete just savvy. There's a certain amount of experience that comes into play in that moment.
It is a bit of mental smarts because players have to run through a quick little checklist. Like, okay, if I don't get this call, are they going to score? No, Kelly O'Hara, you're in your attacking box. Do I actually have the possibility of coming out of this with the ball unscathed? No. At that point, Kelly O'Hara was going to lose that battle and Pickett was going to win the ball from her, and the ball would have been Kansas City's anyway. So at that point, like, okay, like it's the quickness and the experience of a mature veteran player in Kelly O'Hara to say, you know what, I am going to fall at this point. And it worked. She got the call because there were fouls happening. Soft, yes, I would say, but that's the game of soccer.
Yeah, this is another episode for another day, and there's always that argument about like, oh, like that's not what our game is about. And I'm just like, whatever, man. It's about getting the ball in the back of the net. Why not? So it is what it is. It ended up paying off because it leveled them, and then that quick go ahead goal in the second half. That was all she wrote. That was all they needed. And it's it's unfortunate for Kansas City side that really their attack was looking pretty promising in that first half, and then to only walk away with one goal. Those are those things that Hugh Williams is talking about that the team is going to probably work on.
And I understand if Kansas City never wins another game in this league this year, But if they can score goals like that from Darian Jenkins and they can have moments of excellence, like that's pretty cool. I'd love to see Darian Jenkins do that every game.
Yeah,
I'm
good
here
to see
for
her
it.
get the goal. Honestly, a player who has sort of become a journey woman in this league, has been on a couple different teams and has had to work her way back from injury. So for her to get a nice goal like that in the highlight reel is pretty dope. But last one for Sunday to close things out. It was a big one, Lisa. We had this one highlighted. We said if there was a game that you're going to try to watch this weekend, make sure you try to watch this game. OL Reign along with Portland Thorns, really, really riding this streak of performances right now. They're not the team that's in first place, but I would say they're the hottest team in the league right now. And they showed it again against Orlando Pride. They take the win 3-0. OL Reign over Orlando Pride. Bangers. That's all I got to say in this one. French bangers. French bangers in this one. Is a French banger really just a baguette? I don't know. These are the questions. These are the questions that we got to ask ourselves, Lisa. I'm talking about Eugenie Lee-Sommer. She had some great goals in this one. Just really good stuff. I got to say, I was immediately excited for this game when I saw the starting lineups drop. Watching what Laura Harvey is doing with this team right now is incredible. It's exciting. It's fun. This is the team that everyone is looking at now and saying, oh, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
There you are. We were looking for you, and you've arrived.
Yes. It's so good. It's so good to see them. I think Laura Harvey is doing a fantastic job with the squad and with the players that she has ahead of her. Heading into this one, we talked about it a bit in our preview. It was the Golden Boot leaders going against each other: Bethany Balcer for OL Reign and Sydney LaRue for Orlando Pride. Orlando doesn't get a goal in this match, and Bethany Balcer takes it upon herself. A few minutes in, 3 minutes in, she gets her 9th goal, and she does it in true Bethany Balcer fashion. A cross coming in from great player Sofia Huerta, who's now playing in the outside back. Talking about that Laura Harvey switch up, she's moved Huerta to an outside back position, sends an incredible cross in, so beautiful, on a platter to Bethany Balcer, who gets another header goal, her 9. She now leads the league. So that from a young player in Balcer is so great to see. It was just bread and butter from Balcer. And the assist from Sofia Huerta. That's what you're alluding to, right, Sandra? You like seeing her on the flank?
I don't mind seeing her on the flank. I'm so used to seeing a player like Sofia Huerta involved in the attack, right? Where it's like that's her bread and butter. That's where we're used to seeing her, get on the highlight reel. So it's a little bit refreshing in a good way to sort of still see her getting on these highlight reels, but at this outside back position. It's a fantastic storyline for this player. We're talking about a player in Darian Jenkins who sort of has this, journeywoman kind of story. And I would put Sofia Huerta in that camp as well. Somebody who has played with the Red Stars, who played with the Dash, and now has found herself, with OL Reign. And is now sort of seeing herself in this outside back position after really only maybe kind of flirting a little bit with the position initially at the national team level, not so much at the club level. So starting to see her get these games at outside back with Laura Harvey at OL Reign is not too unsurprising. Laura Harvey is somebody who has been connected, with the U.S. women's national team. She understands what is necessary to sort of make that next step to that next level. And she is not unfamiliar with probably seeing Sofia Huerta with games at outside back, but just at a national team level, and said, you know what can work on this club level? This can work at this club level. So to sort of have the right coach, the right player, the right environment, we're starting to see that sort of play out. And while she hasn't had a ton of games at outside back for the Reign specifically this season, the games that she has been putting together for OL Reign down this final stretch, she's been coming up huge. And for her to connect with Balcer in that opening goal kind of alludes to that. So I'm excited to see what else this team is going to bring forth. With the loss to Portland, the Shield is still in sight here for it's up for grabs. It's up for play. We're going to see what happens. We're going to be keeping an eye on these two teams specifically. And I think it's very significant that it's these two teams, these two old Pacific Northwest rivals that are sort of in the hunt and in the chase. It's going to be delightful. We're going to take a quick break. We went through all these games for you to hit you with all the recap. We are going to hit you back with a new segment, our goal of the weekend, and fill you all in on updated standings right after this. What is goal of the weekend? It's a new segment that we're introducing right now. We thought it would be fun to have this as we're closing out this regular season. We're going to start seeing a lot more intensely competitive games between all these teams, and that means that we're probably going to see a lot more fun goals. I want to let everybody know that you can drop us a note on Twitter. You can let us know on Apple Podcasts with a 5-star review what your goal of the weekend is, because Lisa and I are going to hit you all with some options, and we're going to publicly vote for the goals of the weekend that we enjoyed the most. So we want to know your goal of the weekend. Follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. We're going to do a Twitter poll that you all can engage with, and you can actually cast your vote. And if it's not one of the two goals that Lisa and I will pick right now, I need you to go ahead and drop us a reply with what your actual nomination is, because not surprisingly, there were so many great goals that we could not pick them all. So we narrowed them down a little bit. Lisa, hit me with your goal of the week.
So there's a few. I'm going to throw out some nominations for us here. In the Gotham game, the Anamanu gets in line, gets her head up, and finds Purse. That combination, which we haven't seen in a while because Gotham hasn't played and Purse has been injured, that goal was really pretty. And there's a lot of underlining meanings in that one because Gotham gets the win. Purse is back. The combination from Anamanu, who's been stellar in the attack for Gotham, she gets an assist on that one. So I'm throwing that one in the nomination pool for sure. I also want to throw in the Darian Jenkins Kansas City stunner of a goal. She's at the top corner of the 18. She has defenders on her. She cuts inside with her left foot, and she has about like 6 inches of space, and she curls the ball near post. Really, really good goal. Are you nominating any, Sandra? Let's hear some of yours.
Believe it or not, the goal that I'm choosing from the Chicago Red Stars game is going to go to Christine Sinclair from Portland. It was just a very, very pretty goal. I loved the buildup. I always love to see Crystal Dunn in the midfield sort of chasing after, the ball and then making the very smart choices that she decides to make. And it paid off in Christine Sinclair, who just has the skill and has the finesse to just sort of slot that away. We're also going to go ahead and nominate the additional goal between for Rachel Hill, which was provided with the cross from Mal Pugh in the 65th minute. But this last goal that we're really both excited about, Lisa, we got to break it down. We're choosing, of course, a goal from the 3-0 win with OL Reign and Orlando Pride. Eugenie Le Sommer had a couple goals in this one, but her second goal that took place in this match, delightful goal. You love to see a team connecting goal, and to see Jess Fishlock involved in this goal, to see Jennifer Marozan involved in this goal, and the service that's provided to Eugenie Sommer, and then the tactical finish where she slots this ball away. Delightful. Can you tell that that's the one that I'm leaning more towards myself, Lisa?
Yes, I agree. This goal is just so picture perfect. Like you said, it's delicious. The team involvement, the ball movement, the build up, and the finish. So, okay. So that's one of ours that we're going to pick as our finalists. So the second goal from Le Sommer and the build up around it that happened. What second one we're looking at?
I think we're gonna break down this, but we're gonna make it easier for people. We're gonna actually, I know there's 4 options for a Twitter poll, but I think maybe we're gonna just go with 2. We want to play devil's advocate here. So I think we were really most excited about Purse's goal, return to play on Amanu to Purse, and then I think we're both really excited about Eugenie Le Sommer's second goal there in OL Reign. So I think those are the 2 that we're gonna give folks an option for. Let us know.
I love those 2. Yeah, follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. There will be a poll. Hit up that poll. Let us know your thoughts. Which goal is your goal of the weekend?
And why? Of course, I would like to know why.
Of course.
Let's close it out. Updated standings for everybody so that you know where things are lying into next week. Portland Thorns FC still in first place with 38 points. We got OL Reign in second place with 35 points. North Carolina Courage are in third place with 29 points. Chicago Red Stars bumped themselves up to the 4th place with 29 points. Orlando Pride with 5th place with 28 points. Washington Spirit still hang on to 6th place with 26 points. Houston Dash just on the outside looking in at 7th place with 26 points. Gotham FC in 8th place with 25 points. And then you've got Racing Louisville in 9th place with 17 points. And Kansas City, NWSL with 11 points. I want to thank everybody for listening. As always, as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. Participate in that poll, everyone. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast show. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And if you do that with a 5-star review and a question, Lisa and I will answer it as part of our mailbag segment. We're also available as videos, so subscribe to us on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Attacking Third, and we will be back Wednesday for our news and notes and mailbag segment. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.